All right. Welcome to another episode of Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian.
Good morning.
What's up, bro? How we doing?
Another lovely day in New England, baby.
Yep. A little brisk this morning, a little bit. Weather's been all over the place, dude.
It has been. It was freezing like the last couple of days. I don't know what's up with that, but that's okay.
It's all right, dude. It's like we're going through the multiverse, dude. It's like one day it's like 80, one day it's 30.
Right.
I mean, who knows? A lot going on in the multiverse of the comic world this week, Adrian. All kinds of stuff.
That's okay.
You had pointed out something earlier. There's a lot of Marvel stuff going on.
It is, but whatever DC it is, it seems to be bad.
Yeah. They've been on that trend for a while, dude.
Right.
Now, if this is your first time with us, I will let you know, contrary to popular belief, Adrian, we are not experts, correct? I know everyone thinks we are, but we are not. We've never claimed to be, and we will never claim to be experts. We do this podcast. It started as a joke around a workplace, and here we are almost a year later. So I guess we're getting the last laugh, you know?
Well, we're not going to claim to be experts. Maybe matured at some point. Maybe around episode 100 or so, we'll claim matured.
There we go. I like that. But why I say we're not experts is we will say some shit that y'all don't agree with. We will say some shit that may even be wrong, you know? Right. And guess what? We may change our minds. I may change my mind from the beginning of this podcast, Adrian, to the end. That has happened in the past, right?
It has.
But we like to start with news every single week here. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the news. You had mentioned, you know, we were kind of just talking before we got on it, and we were talking about sequels, right? And you said that the Across the Spider-Verse movie was one of the first sequels in a while that you remember being better than the first movie, right? Because usually what happens is first movie's really good, second movie's trash, and then if it gets to a third, it's kind of like in the middle, right?
Well, if you do X, I mean, they're up to like what, 13 now? Or
the
12
Fast and Furious?
Yeah, Fast and Furious. I mean, that's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, but that was one where the second one was horrible, right? First one, great. Came out with the second one, horrible.
Well, they were entertaining up until they started with the superhero, you know, jumping across the bridge, smashing, tanks flying around.
Yeah.
It got a little bit.
I mean, do you think that the Fast Crew could defeat the Justice League?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right at this point.
Yeah, at this point, you never know, right? But why I brought that up was there was this Batman Beyond concept art, right? I don't know if you've seen this, but dude, it looks like the Spider-Verse.
We had this conversation where we thought that moving forward, so the new Miles Morales Spider-Man set the tone for the movies and the comics, like the animated comics that we were going to be seeing moving forward. And this is a perfect example of that adaptation.
Yeah. So if you all have not seen this hit Twitter or X as they call it. And it's like, dude, Elon Musk, just call it Twitter again, dude. No one's calling it X. That's stupid. That's besides the point. But I saw this concept art. Now, here's the bad thing about it, though. The art looks badass, right? I'd love to see this. And, in fact, and you're right. After we did our Across the Spider-Verse review, we did say there should be some more animated movies that kind of at least are treated with this level of detail, right?
Correct.
Now, this one kind of looks like a little bit of ripoff of Across the Spider-Verse, I'm not going to lie. But the bad thing about it, they said, I guess these guys went in, I don't know exactly who it was, but they're pitching this movie to WB or DC, and they said before they even pitched them, they said there's absolutely no way we can do a Beyond movie. But they love their enthusiasm. So this is going nowhere. But just to kind of show you, at least there are some people watching Only Comics and you know, at WB now.
Right.
And they heard what we said about it, you know, I don't know, maybe a dozen weeks ago or so, and they're listening. So, but I'd love to see more of this, honestly.
So would I, but I mean, you can only imagine that they're in the same line with the Spawn creator, right? So somebody please, you know, make my movie, you know.
Right.
Dude, just make it yourself.
Yeah,
whatever version. I mean, there's you can type in, you got text to 3D world these days, right? You go to ChatGPT or whatever is the latest thing.
Right.
Type in your concept, and it'll spit out your movie, and then just charge people like a master's class. You know, just host it your own and make it yourself.
There you go. Now, we mentioned the Justice League being defeated. We said this in the past, too, that the Seven would defeat the Justice League, right? But the reason I bring that up, Adrian, is The Boys Season 4 finally has a release date. Okay. June 13th. So, I mean, kind of right around the corner, dude. I mean, February, they just, like, January, February flew by.
Well, That's why it's Black History Month.
Are you saying because it's the shortest month in the year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You blink because people are migrating from the cold to spring, and it's just forgotten.
Yep.
And that's why I think we have it.
Right. And you have to share Black History Month with President's Day for some reason, too.
Yeah.
That's
whatever,
jammed in there.
including the missing ones before Washington, right?
Right. Definitely. But what's that to do with comics? Nothing and everything. The Boys Season 4, June 13th. So they're going to drop 3 episodes on the 13th and then a new episode each week after that. And the season finale July 18th. So that's cool. I'm going to try to rewatch the first 3 seasons of this because I did love this the show. Right. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I haven't seen the 3rd season yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I don't think I have. Definitely enjoyed it. The what was the other one? Gen X?
Gen V.
Gen V.
Yep.
That was a little hard to kind of wrap my
I
head
haven't
around.
finished that. Have you?
Nor have I. I haven't finished it either.
Yeah.
But it's kind of it's a tough steak to chew on.
Yep. Do you know who else I think is watching us? Someone at Yahoo. Okay, because I saw this article the other day. It said, with Madam Webb bombing, it's time to ask who wants a Spider-Verse without Spider-Man.
I saw that, dude. I'm like, well, we got another piece of news too that also confirmed some things that we had just talked about last week. But yeah, this Madam Webb stuff.
Like, dude, y'all are late, bro. We've been saying this shit for weeks. Don't watch our show and then try to write a little article to get your views. So that we said that first here on Only Comics. So you will see a lot. We are not experts, but we do have a lot of the industry watching the show. At least we like to believe that. Right. So anyway, well, Adrian, we like to start with some news and rumors, right? So let's go through. Like I said, there was a lot going on this week, but a lot of Marvel stuff, right? So X-Men 97 debuts in a few weeks. We talked about that last week. We talked about the Wolverine voice actor not really sounding up to his standards in the past, Right. So a TikTok, I think half the universe, agree with us. The other half's like, well, cut the guy a break. He's older. Like, dude, I understand he's older. All I'm saying, I didn't say he sucked. All I said was he doesn't sound the same.
Right.
Well,
he doesn't sound Wolverine-ish.
Right.
Either. So
yeah.
I don't know what was going on with that.
So anyway, but no, we're not hating. We accuse you. You're a hater. I'm not hating. I actually think Cal Dodd's awesome. But X-Men 97. So there when this show was first announced, there was rumors about it kind of tying into the MCU, right? Because we saw in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, the Professor Xavier in that little cameo when he was killed by Scarlet Witch resembled the one from the animated series, so people were saying, "Oh, maybe it's connected." But the creators of the show have confirmed. Actually, a showrunner and writer opened a Q&A on Instagram last week, and he said that nope, it's our own thing. It is not connected to the MCU. So I actually like that, dude, because it's cool to have its own thing. Everything doesn't need to be connected, Right. I think that's kind of trouble we get in right now. Everything has to connect to something.
Right. It just it also makes things muddy. Muddy, confusing, and makes people feel like they have to watch something or 37 episodes or something before this one so they can understand what's going on. So I think this is like a breath of fresh air. Yeah,
absolutely. We talked a lot about Fast and Furious. Dude, Dom's, they're in there, dude. Someone say family. The Fantastic Four reboot, right? So we did a little deep dive on that. So if you hadn't checked out last week's episode, actually our most viewed episode ever, Adrian, by the way. Yeah, so thank you all for tuning in. But if you've not seen it, check it out. We did a deep dive on the Fantastic Four. You've said plenty of times you're a big Reed Richards guy. We discussed the Pedro Pascal casting.
Right.
I've had some time with this now, Adrian. I was kind of 50-50 last week, and then we both said we were a little torn because, for the look, he doesn't really look the part, but he's a great actor, so I think he can pull it off. Someone in our comments was trying to race bait us. They're like, does he not look the part because he's South American and not white? Like, no, dude. It's actually has more about his bulk, like you said. Mr. Reed's Reed Richards is typically a skinny, lanky dude,
right?
Jim Carrey-esque.
Right.
Not that I want Jim Carrey to play him, but that body type, if you will.
Exactly.
Nothing to do with him being South American. I don't care about that at all.
Right.
I'll give you a perfect example of a guy who's a different race but looks the part. My man who plays Gordon in the Batman, Jeffrey Wright. Mustache, Commissioner Gordon in the last Batman movie.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. He's a black dude.
Yep.
Right? Commissioner Gordon is white in the comics.
Yep.
My man's got the mustache. He's got the glasses. The look. he looks the part enough for me.
Because he's able to carry the character.
Yes.
That's what it's about.
Yep.
And Pascal, whatever his name is, he just doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Now, I did say that I have to watch the movie because if he can carry the part, or maybe I didn't say it, who knows?
Well, you're saying it now.
I'm saying it now.
That's all it matters.
I mean, I have to watch the movie. Just like I said, whoever plays things, it doesn't really matter because he has to transcend that character outside of the costume.
Right.
And Johnny, anybody can play Johnny because he's nobody,
Yeah, you're not a big Johnny Storm guy, dude.
Nah, he's always, when I was growing up, he hasn't done anything spectacular. He seems to always get in trouble.
Yeah.
He's like that guy where, they're having a fight and he like stumbles over his foot, gets in the way of somebody, causes Sue to have a miscarriage. I mean, whatever weird stuff is going on.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, we talked a lot about Fantastic Four. One of the things that we did say, and that, I had a moniker on this show, Adrian, a few months back, right? It was He Who Is Right. Okay. Especially, hey, now that Kang's gone and Jonathan Major, I could be He Who Is Right and He Who Remains at the same time.
There you go.
Anyway, but I had predicted the Loki finale, pretty spot on, right? Yeah. So we were talking about Fantastic Four last week, and I threw out the pitch of, hey, dude, imagine if this takes place across 2 different timelines, right? Because it's a rumor to take place in the 60s. But obviously, they're going to want to tie this into the MCU in some way, shape, or form.
Well, I'm pretty sure I pitched that.
Did you pitch that?
Yeah.
Am I trying to steal your idea?
Yeah, you tried. It's okay. We can share.
Okay,
I'm not butthurt.
Well, we'll have to watch the tape and find out. Here's that commercial where they throw the challenge. Like, let's bring the tape back. So, well, here you go. One of us said it. It was probably Adrian. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was both of us. I don't know. But the rumor that came out after that, Adrian, is that Fantastic Four will take place across 2 timelines. What do you know?
Called it.
So I'm if that's the case, I'm even more excited about this movie.
Of course. That would make sense.
Yeah.
That would make sense because Reed, like King, is a time jumping dude. I mean, he's got all kinds of equipment that allow him to travel through time, across universes, so on and so forth. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So now I'm looking forward to that. And again, we said, Pedro Pascal playing Mr. Fantastic, Vanessa Kirby. You talk about Fast and Furious. She was Shaw's sister in the Hobbs and Shaw spinoff movie.
Okay.
So I think she'll do good there. Joseph Quinn. I know you said anyone could play Johnny Storm. I don't know if I could. I could probably play Thing.
Yeah, you could probably do that.
Yeah. So
work on the legs a little bit. But
yeah, a little bit. Joseph Quinn, though, my man from Stranger Things, is playing Johnny Storm. And Ebon Moss-Bachrach, I have no idea who this actor is playing, Ben Grimm, the Thing. So
what, Elon Musk?
No. Ebon Moss. Hey, you never know, dude.
You're right.
And this is scheduled to be released July 25th of 25. So, little fun fact for you, dude. I learned that Superman Legacy is going to be released, I think, right around the same time as Fantastic Four. So we're going to have a little Marvel versus DC at the box office next year.
So this probably being so it's like kind of clickbait, right? So you say something that has nothing to do with what you got going on because you're not relevant at the time. So you say like Taylor Swift, only to get, the eyeballs attracted to your thing because people think you're going to talk about Taylor Swift. So DC is pulling that trick, right? Yep. They have nothing going on. The last few movies was shit. Damn. And so now they're going to say, well, let's put this little competition between Marvel and DC because we ain't got nothing going on right now.
Right.
So, but we want people to see, talk about DC anyway.
Yeah. Now, do you think, it's just a prediction. We make predictions here, too, right? A lot of times we're right. Like, I think we've been wrong, maybe once, probably. Not even. But would you, if you had to make a prediction, Adrian, which movie would do better at the box office, Fantastic Four or Superman Legacy?
So both of the Fantastic Four movies, I think they were both. I'm saying maybe 2. I don't know. Yeah. Whatever number of I've seen 2 versions of it. I know that's right. They weren't very good. So I am really excited about this next version of the Fantastic Four. I'm interested to see what they'll do with it, but I kind of don't have a lot of high hopes.
Got it.
Anything with Superman. My excitement with Superman stopped with Cavill. Not that the fact that he's gone has nothing to do with it, but they did a really good job of reviving Superman, and then they just kind of fumbled the ball ever since the first one came out.
Right.
So I don't
you
really
like
have
Man of Steel.
Huh?
You like Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
Over the what came after.
Right. So I don't really have high hopes for either of these. However, I would say probably Fantastic Four would probably be better.
I think so too. And I mean, now partly they have the benefit of the MCU being around forever. This is going to tie into it. I do think there's a lot of diehard comic fans that have been waiting for the Fantastic Four to be, brought into the MCU.
Right.
And it also, because for me that means not just the Fantastic Four. It means we're probably going to get X-Men really soon. Like it means change for the MCU. So I'm all for it.
Well, so this is almost like Kang and some other characters. Doom. I'm actually glad they're bringing out the Fantastic Four now, because it's almost like the Madam Web thing, right?
Yeah.
Why do we have these Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man?
Exactly.
Well, Kang, he's a Fantastic Four / Avengers villain.
Right.
Doom, he's a Fantastic Four villain. So we're starting to pivot where we have all these external villains without the main characters that main teams that introduced them.
Right.
So it's good they're bringing them out now, and then that would catapult all these other characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And Yahoo had a great article about that, by the way.
Oh, did they?
yeah. I think they got the idea from here. But
probably, most likely.
Yeah, most likely. But yeah, I'm with you. We don't need more of a character's villains without that character. We saw how well that's worked out for the Madam Web movie that's bombing right now at the box office, and the Venom and all that other shit. Speaking of movies, Marvel Studios is reportedly developing a Scarlet Witch solo film. This is interesting because her, fate, if you will, was kind of left up in the air at the end of Doctor Strange. We saw wherever they were battling, the dark hole, everything blows up, but you see a little red light. We talked about this before. So I'd assume she's still alive in the MCU somewhere.
Yep.
I'd be all about a Scarlet Witch solo movie.
Absolutely. She played a very, I don't necessarily like her overall, the actress.
Yeah.
But she nailed.
Yeah.
Wanda Maximoff.
Yep.
Which is pretty incredible. And then the fact that they used her across all these other, venues. She did a very good job of portraying that character.
Yep.
She owned it, and I'm absolutely would love to see her come out again.
Yeah. And at first, so WandaVision was, she had her solo show with Vision, which I thought was great.
So did I.
It was, it's so unique. Like, it's like, look how far we've come with MCU shows. That was the first one that debuted. And then we have shit like Secret Invasion. You know what I mean? Like, this is where we were, and this is where we are now.
Well, you gotta, to be fair, you gotta have some bad movies. Or not so good movies.
Sure.
So Marvel, they pretty good. Let's not call them bad movies.
Yeah.
Like a DC thing.
Ooh.
Let's call them not so good.
Yeah.
Right. So they can have some not so good movies, but WandaVision was an excellent movie.
Yeah, that was great. Now there was a rumor about a show, Vision Quest, which is supposedly the White Vision that we saw at the end. There's gonna be some spinoff there. But if I had to pick between the two, Vision Quest or a Scarlet Witch solo movie, I'm taking the solo movie every day of the week, twice on Sundays.
I agree.
So if this is true, great news. So IMDb, the movie database website, the whole deal, they did a fan poll on what the greatest superhero movie of all time was. Okay. Would you know? You're probably gonna like this news. Now, I got to preface this before I even give the name of the movie, because
here we go.
I love this movie. I do. So when I say these next statements, don't go, how could you hate that? I don't. I actually love this movie, but I don't think it's the greatest superhero movie of all time. Okay. Would you know, or would you guess what was number one?
I would go with Spider-Man Across the Multiverse, or Into the Multiverse. One of those.
Yep. I'm with you. It was The Dark Knight.
Really?
Yes, that was number one. Christian Bale, your boy.
Now, I agree with that version of the Batman.
Yep.
I also agree with what's his face playing the Joker.
Yeah, Heath Ledger. Yep.
Right, Heath Ledger playing it. I mean, he really knocked that out the park. the greatest superhero movie? Yeah, no.
No. So the second place was Avengers Endgame, which I'm like,
Really?
dude, that's not even the best Avengers movie. I
Really?
take Infinity War over that. I mean, it has we talked about this before, it has some of the best moments.
Sure.
But as a movie, Infinity War is a better movie.
Wow.
Yep. And then
Wait a minute, who did this poll?
IMDb.
Yeah, but who was on the panel? Do you know?
It was just like fan votes. Yeah, so it was about 24,000 votes. So
Okay.
we probably get more votes here on Only Comics. Anyway, Avengers Endgame was second place, and Into the Spider-Verse was third. So the first Spider-Man Spider-Verse movie was third.
Are you sure they didn't like get those mixed up like in reverse order?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure because it's IMDb. Who knows?
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, but I'm gonna go no on that, dude. I mean, I love The Dark Knight,
Yep.
but now you'll not like this statement. It's not even the best Batman movie. Moving on. You don't want to touch that one, huh? All right. You talked about Kang, and we're going to talk about some Kang stuff later. But Marvel is officially pivoting away from Kang. Now, they mentioned they dropped Jonathan Majors,
Yep.
right? We talked about that a few weeks back. But this whole what to do with Kang thing was still up in the air, right? Because they could cast somebody else. I mean, there's all these Kang variants, so it doesn't even have to look like Jonathan Majors. That's not an issue. But there's a movie that is on the line for production. It's Avengers Kang Dynasty. So this is where everyone's been, what the hell are they doing with this, right? I saw a rumor this past week, Adrian, that said they have they're reworking that movie, Kang Dynasty, and it will no longer be Kang Dynasty. And then there was some other news about Marvel, and what they're saying, what they're claiming now is that they did not move away from Kang because of Jonathan Majors' legal troubles. They moved away from Kang because of how poor Ant-Man Quantumania, or it was Ant-Man Quantumania. Right. How poor that movie did at the box office. That's why they're moving away from Kang.
Okay.
And I'm going to sit here in front of you and call bullshit on this. Because if that's the case, dude, then why did they drop Kang, or why did they drop Jonathan Majors right after the trial? And now, hey, that's within their right to do, right? He got convicted. Whatever. It's Disney. We said that before. We may not agree, but it is Disney. But I just don't like that now they're saying that it had nothing to do with that.
Right.
It was just so if that's the case, then why didn't you drop him after the movie was released?
Right.
Why didn't you pivot away from it then? You waited till this decision. So, I think it's stupid. It's bullshit. But with not having Jonathan Majors in the MCU, I'm glad they're moving away from Kang Dynasty.
Right. We talked about this, in previous episodes. First off, I disagree that they could have just gotten somebody else.
Right.
I mean, they cannot recast Jonathan Majors. It just would have been pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
To get that kind of energy, which is why they made the decision to drop them all together. They dropped them because of the legal things. They didn't recast them because there's no other Jonathan Majors. Right. So about them, but I do agree with their decision because they absolutely have their right. That's their business. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
I mean, and how many times did they change the name of Madam Webb or the Agatha movie? The Agatha movie.
Yeah. I mean, it was like change it again.
Every 13 minutes they changed the name of it. So, so they absolutely have their right. And I do agree that if there's no Jonathan Majors, there should not be a Kang, at least not anytime within the short term.
Correct.
Right. And then do something else. Have another supervillain. We got plenty of them.
Yep. And I mean, a lot of the rumors are kind of centering around Doom, which would make sense with the Fantastic Four.
But oh my God, they got to get Doom right though, dude.
Right.
They got to get that character right.
They need to give him and I don't mean look wise, but the Thanos treatment.
Absolutely.
Cast someone who they know can nail that shit and build some stories around him.
Right. Look at Iron Man's suit. Look at Deadpool's suit. They can make him look the part. They can absolutely make him look the part. Can the actor behind the mask make us feel like he's that Doom that just rode in on a polar bear kind of character?
Yeah, because Doom can be huge in the MCU.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I would like for them to kind of, like, I don't think he, we talked about this last week, and I agree with you, he should not be the main villain in this movie.
No.
He could be featured, a cameo. We could see a little bit of an origin there, because Doom is, even though he's heavily, featured as a or everyone thinks of him as a Fantastic Four villain, he's like you said, an Avengers villain. He's a high level, and he also could be somewhat of an anti-hero at times.
Doom. His whole agenda is really about saving humanity in his own way.
Right.
So he's a galactic villain. He's not nobody's in particular. However, he did for me. He got introduced. I was introduced to Doom through the Fantastic Four.
Right. But yeah, he's ascended to be that top level, like just like Thanos was. He could be a villain for the entire multiverse. You know. Well, there's the news and rumors for the week. We like to wrap up with a little thumbs up, thumbs down, and this is where we just kind of recap and let you know, thumbs up if we like this rumor or piece of news, or if we don't. And then at the end, you guys all chime in. Some of y'all get excited, some of you agree, some of you get butthurt, and we're all good with whatever your response is. So, X-Men 97 is not connected to the MCU after all. I'll give this a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Fantastic Four is rumored to take place across 2 different timelines. I give this a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
And another extra thumbs up, since that means they're listening to us, right? Marvel Studios reportedly developing a Scarlet Witch solo film. If this is true, another thumbs up.
Agreed.
IMDb, they did a stupid poll recently, and
I wonder whether this is going to be a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah, I wonder what. And the fans voted The Dark Knight as the greatest superhero movie of all time. Apparently, they stopped watching movies after 2008, so thumbs down.
Definitely thumbs down.
And then last but not least, Marvel Studios, there's a rumor that the reason they pivoted away from Kang had nothing to do with Jonathan Majors and everything to do with the Quantumanium box office bomb that it was. And I'm giving this a thumbs down because y'all are lying.
Thumbs down because I agree with you, but thumbs up because they also have the right to do that.
Right.
Which is fine.
Okay.
But the headline of the article, reading it for what it is, thumbs down.
Yes. All right. Well, after thumbs up and thumbs down, we like to get into a hidden gem here, Adrian. Your segment, which you've had one of the recent ones that everyone's excited about was the Jon Stewart Green Lantern, because everyone always talks about Hal Jordan, right?
Right.
So if you want to take a sec and like this video right now, subscribe, and also you can check out when you're done with this the hidden gem playlist on our YouTube page. But hidden gem, due to something where even though we're not experts, right? Even though we're not experts. Adrian will break down a hidden gem, and it's not really like an obscure character all the time. Sometimes it's a character that's very popular in the comics, but the theme usually is when they came to live action, they fucked it up, right? Fair enough?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. So what do we got going on this week, Adrian?
All right, so this week, not to belabor this, since we're talking about Kang and all these other kind of things, this week's hidden gem is Kang the Conqueror.
There you go.
So this dude, I actually, when I was researching him, because I knew him differently when I first started reading comics, right? Yep. The coolest thing about Kang was the fact that he could generate these force field. He had this armor. He's a regular dude, kind of, but he could generate these force fields that could withstand a nuclear blast, like 0 feet kind of nuclear blast. So to me, that was the coolest thing. When you're 16, 17 years old, reading about these comic book characters, because I was all big into tech. So to me, a force field that could withstand a nuclear blast, I'm all for it.
Yep.
So I didn't know about all this other stuff, but I'm deep diving into his profile, and this stuff reads like a encyclopedia, dude. It's like 300 pages long.
Right.
So the basis of it is, Kang was born on an alternate Earth, right? And he's human-like, but his physiology is that they kind of live a little longer than the standard human, right? So he has no other real powers. He has no powers. Regular dude, brilliant scientist. So on the Earth that he was born in, that Earth skipped what we call like the Dark Ages or the Industrial Age. So if you read our history books, history is about, the person that won, and they can write anything they want to. So they skipped the Dark Ages, which means that their technology just continued to advance at a rapid pace. Well, we were sidetracked, blocked, whatever, by his Dark Ages. So, our timeline is a little adjusted. So now we actually just get into some level of technology.
Okay.
They skipped all that.
Got it.
So as they developed, they were able to get into, travel a lot quicker. They colonized their moon. The moon became a separate world to them. And at some point, everything was fine until it wasn't, right? And they got into a war, which ended up destroying that moon.
Okay.
So they used their technology. Kang, he used this technology, the moon or that planet. They used this technology to redevelop the planet, so on and so forth. He went out. So basically, they were able to harness technology in a way that we have not at this point.
Got it.
So they were advanced. So years into the future, he's had offsprings and, all this kind of stuff. They're popping around. So basically what Kang does is he wants to conquer all worlds across all time. That was his deal. And he would pop in and out of the future, gather technology so that he can then go back in time and do the various things that he was doing. He did this so much that he actually created variants of himself, or variants of himself were created. Yeah. He also used robots that looked like him so that he could be in this universe or this timeline. He would send a robot into another timeline so that he can conquer that timeline simultaneously.
Yeah.
It got to the point where he started tripping over his own feet, right? He became his own problem, right? So that's where you get the Council of Kang, right? So they were created so that they can go and destroy all the variants of him because they were getting in his way of conquering all these timelines and stuff, which I found pretty interesting. Yeah. So you go back in time, or you go here and you meet these people and you have kids. I mean, he's related pretty much to everybody. Richards, Doom, you name it, he's in there, right? Literally. Because of all these timelines and stuff and relationships, he's known by a lot of different names. He ends up, we understand the Victor Timely from the Loki show. Yep. The Blue Man, Rama Tut, King of Kings, just all kinds of stuff. Because he can literally be at any timeline at any point. Yeah. So this guy, his big deal was that throughout all of this, who was it? Ramona? What's the girl's name? Ravonna. Now, he's also like a love story too, because across all of his timelines, he saw this girl, fell in love with her. She died. She was brought back to life. He's been killed many times by different people, brought back to life. So, but through all of this, he always had this love for Ravonna, and he stopped at nothing. That if something happened to her, even though she rejected him initially, and through and across time, she would find out about different things about what he did. She would reject him. He would do, plant a planet of roses and present it to her. She'd fall in love with him again. Some dumb stuff like that, right? But she was always a constant with him, right? Which is cool. Right. So he has a lot of adventures. And like I said, this dude, this is just the Cliff Notes, and I got 15 pages of it. Right. And but he's also gone up against, name a supervillain, Thanos, just everybody, dude. So he's all over the place. But the main thing to remember about Kang, which I didn't know because I stopped at the suit, right? Yeah. Was that his thing was to conquer time. Yeah. He popped around time so much that he started to trip over himself. Had to create councils to get rid of versions of himself so he can do what he needed to do. There was another council of alternate kings, right? Yeah. Made up of aliens and humans and, robots and stuff that would also try to corral these kings. Yeah. So outside of himself trying to get rid of variants of himself, there's other entities trying to get rid of Kang as well. Got it. This whole order thing. And of course, as he's popping around, he's making enemies all over the place. And then he runs into the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, which is how I got introduced to him.
Got it. So you learned of him through the Fantastic Four.
Correct. So, like I said, he's just a regular dude, but, because he's popping around, basically stealing technology from all over the place. He's made this suit of armor that allows him to lift, 5 tons, the whole nuclear bomb thing, 0 point.
Yeah.
He can project anti-gravity fields around objects that can lift a couple of tons, all these different kind of projectiles. He's got strongholds throughout time, not just in universes or galaxies. He's got strongholds, throughout time. His main one is in, the year 4000 something. He has other portals where he can go to and actually look at any point in time.
Yeah.
Also in his armor, he has circuitry where he can recall his ship, or he can take little glimpses of time periods of things like that. So I think he's a pretty amazing guy.
Yeah.
As far as like his power sets and what he does, but again, his power isn't himself.
Right.
He's not like a phoenix. His power is really his mind.
Yeah.
And the fact that he has so much experience time traveling, time manipulation, time management, that he's, an absolutely formidable foe. And again, for whatever reason, he's been killed many times and brought back many times by various people, including Doom.
Yeah.
And he continues to go on. So I would love to see, I think the arc that the Jonathan Major actor had with Kang would have been a tremendous one if he would have survived it. It's unfortunate all the things that happened around him. But I do believe that, he could come back later on.
Yeah.
If they find a replacement. And I think he'd be a good character to see on the screen again.
Yeah. I know as you're going through that, it's literally bringing me back to the MCU and the few variants that we did see. So, you mentioned all these variants of Kang. We saw He Who Remains.
Right.
We saw Victor Timely. And then we saw Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man, in the Wasp Quantumania, which that movie, it's not good. It's but kind of like what you were saying earlier. It's not a horrible movie. It's probably still better than a lot of the DC movies. And one of the highlights of that movie is Jonathan Major's Kang portrayal. And all these things, what you're telling us about Kang and your hidden gem, MCU, they did pull a lot of that into the story, right? Like we got to see. So to your point, it's unfortunate that we didn't get to see this pan out.
Right.
However you feel about the legal, that, it's a very unfortunate situation for everyone.
Right. Like Victor Timely, he got placed or stuck in a variation of Earth in some timeline.
Yeah.
So what he basically did was he made the entire world, technology based. So that character Victor Time, they all live their complete separate lives, and then he would just pop out and go somewhere else or a different time. I mean, the funniest variant of him was Baby Kang. But the thing about it is that he would actually go through time and team up with older or younger versions of himself to go to try to conquer worlds or solve problems.
Right.
A very, very interesting character. In my mind right now, the only person that could have pulled it off, he's gone.
Yeah.
So,
right. Going back to the MCU, like he debuted in Loki, right? And if you remember, it was just the one episode. He was in the last episode of the first season when Loki and Sylvie get to the end of time, and he tells a story that really kind of mimics a lot of what you're saying. He talks about discovering time travel, discovering variants of himself, and basically sharing technology, traveling through the multiverse and different timelines and going to the future and bringing that tech back to his present time. And just like you said, eventually it got to the point where there were all these variants out there and they all were trying to conquer, and it created a big multiversal war.
Right.
So He Who Remains destroyed the multiverse, created the TVA, the sacred timeline, to try to kind of manage everything. And then, we saw what happened with that with Victor Timely, and that kind of got out of control at the end. But a lot of, like, the Council of Kangs we saw at the end of, and you've not seen Ant-Man, but at the end there's a post-credit scene where you see the Council of Kangs. There's like hundreds of Kang variants. Right. And the Kang that we saw in Quantumania, he was he had believed that the multiverse was dying due to his variants, and he was attempting to instigate another war, but he was captured by the Council of Kangs, and he was exiled to the quantum realm. Janet Van Dyne, remember in the first Ant-Man movie, she was trapped in the quantum realm. So these two met and were working together in there, and he kind of like used her to help him try to figure out a way out.
Right.
And then Hank, they ended up saving her from the quantum realm in the second movie. And then in the third, when they go back, we learn about this kind of relationship that Janet and Kang had, and Ant-Man and Cassie basically defeat Kang, and that also was a little like we got Kang the Conqueror, and he's being killed by Ant-Man and his daughter. Like all this stuff you just said about Kang, like Ant-Man and his daughter.
Right.
I mean, they're not the seven,
Right.
But I mean, also it was, so we got to see some of this. So to your point, like, why was he a hidden gem? Because he was portrayed properly, but we never really got to see the story finished, which sucks.
Right.
Right. But hey, Kang the Conquered. Now would you put him on the same level of a Thanos or above Thanos?
Conquest wise, I would put him on the same level as a Thanos. Power set wise, no. I would put him probably with the high evolutionary.
Okay.
As far as they're trying to project their dominance, and they're doing everything that they can to do to be dominant. But power level, definitely not.
Yeah. You mentioned Ravonna, and we saw a version of her in Loki.
Yep.
Remember, they kind of conquered the world together, and then he basically wiped her memory and sent her back. Or no, he sent her back to the TVA, said he was going to join her and never did.
Right.
Just so he could stay at the end of time by himself or whatnot. But, yeah, very, very unfortunate that we won't get to see this character continue in the MCU. All right, so there you have it for Hidden Gem. Up next, Adrian, it's a fan favorite around here. I don't know if it is, though, because we get a lot of backlash on this. But it's, if you and I we're fans of our own podcast, so it's one of our favorite segments.
Well, let's just say that our fans are highly engaged.
There we go.
With this segment.
Okay, we'll go with that. That's a great way to put it. So I got a handful of my opinion. And here's the thing about it. This is not like, most of these are not hills that I'm going to die on. Some of them are, but like we said in the past, I mean, there was one a few weeks ago where I said Taylor Swift shouldn't be in Deadpool 3. And then we found out that she was, was rumored to play Dazzler. And we're like, well, she actually looks a lot like Dazzler. No, you know what? She should be in there. Right. So that may happen. But as of this present moment, Adrian, these 8 statements I'm going to throw at you are what I believe. You're going to let me know if you agree or disagree. But the real fun starts when you all watch and do the same. All right. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. I have higher hopes for a Fantastic Four than I do for Superman Legacy.
Agree.
Bruce Wayne is smarter than Tony Stark.
Disagree.
Bruce Wayne has more Riz than Tony Stark.
More what?
Riz.
What's Riz?
We went over this last week, dude. It means like you can get girls. You got swag. You got.
Bruce Wayne has more Riz than Tony Stark.
Yep.
Disagree.
Damn.
I disagree.
Logan is better than Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Agree.
Secret Wars should reset the MCU.
It should, yes.
Yes. Agree. Chocolate chip cookies over oatmeal raisin.
Completely disagree.
I knew that. I had a feeling that one was going to get you, too. Nah. All right, well, I'm about to hit you back to back. The Batman is better than The Dark Knight.
Dude, what's with you and the Batman? You got this thing with
Pattinson?
Yeah.
That's Battinson, bro. That's my
Whatever,
boy.
Dude. Whatever.
So are you saying you disagree?
I disagree.
Okay. And Across the Spider-Verse is the greatest comic book movie of all time.
I agree.
There we go.
Thus far.
Yeah, thus far. Take that, IMDb. Anyway, well, that is a
chocolate chip cookies, dude. What's up with that, man? They should chocolate chip cookies and oatmeal cookies shouldn't even be in the same sentence.
Damn, you're going like that. Oh shit, dude. So you're a big Henry Cavill fan, right? As Superman.
Yes, a big Henry Cavill fan as Superman. Yes.
Yep. So he's been rumored to the rumor for a while has been he's going to show up in Marvel, in the MCU at some point in time, right? Did you hear the latest rumor, though?
Captain Britain
Yes.
or Doom or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, I think Doom's been floating around, but Captain Britain seems to be the one that we're hearing a lot about. And he actually spoke on this. He said that it would be loads of fun to do a cool modernized version of that. Now, he's also from the UK, so that's cool. First of all, I don't know a lot about Captain Britain. I mean, it's similar to the Captain America character, but I think he got his powers much different through magic or something like that.
Right.
How do you feel about Henry playing Captain Britain in the MCU? You think that's a good fit?
I think it's a good fit, more so than a Doom.
Yeah.
Only because I think, with the suit, the mask, and all that kind of stuff, it would be a waste of Cavill, because Cavill is more physical than anything else. And I wouldn't want him to slip up and, drop into his English voice because he sounds like a 9-year-old. But I think Captain Britain, because he is kind of Captain Britain, the Captain Britain character is like a Captain America, but with more power.
Yeah, got it. You mentioned this recently about Loki, right? So we got the Deadpool Wolverine movie coming up. It's going to be, we saw some TVA agents in there, right? You had said that, you just kind of posed the question, would Loki show up? Do you think Loki's going to show up in Deadpool and Wolverine?
I think because there's some popping around going on, I believe that he would. Yeah. Matter of fact, I also said that I think it might be interesting if Deadpool kind of kicks Loki out of the chair, and takes over. Takes over that little spider web thing he got going on.
So they asked Todd Hiddleston about this, or Tom Hiddleston, who plays Loki, in an interview recently, and he said his exact quote was, "I don't know, and if I did, I might not be allowed to tell you. I truly don't know. Marvel are correctly protective of their information. I've seen the trailer and it looks good." So now hearing this, does it make you think that he'll be in it or not?
I think he's just being direct.
Yeah.
Which I think most actors should do.
Right.
Or just say, look, I know, but I can't tell you. Or
it's pretty much what he said, right?
Right. Or I don't know.
Yeah.
So I like that directness. I don't think he's being, I don't think he's sidestepping. But when they say, well, I think it might be, just shut up. Just stop right there. Just shut up.
Now, but so hearing that, when you first said, I thought about it, yes, TVA, I could see him showing up. But to me, Loki's such a big character now, now that he's at the seat of He Who Remains. I don't know that. I don't know that they would use him properly in this, and I wouldn't want to see it wasted as just a cameo. So I'm like, I don't think he's going to show up. But hearing how coy he was about this, I'm like, I don't know, dude. Sounds like there could be a chance. I think I'm more on the side of him showing up after hearing this.
Well, again, I think it's possible. I do think that it would be kind of a waste because I think the Loki character has so much more to do.
Yes.
In the MCU, and even as a joke, I think it'll be a travesty to have Deadpool come in and kick him in the knee while he's on the chair or something like that.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, now I wouldn't be opposed to an end credit scene or something. Where he shows up there. That way it's not in the movie. You don't even need to really have Deadpool involved. Maybe just because they're messing around with the, TVA, we see something of him show up. But if it is, I'd like the post-credit scene versus him being in the actual movie for me.
So Deadpool is basically immortal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he could have popped in and took over Victor Timely's role and walked out that gangplank
right?
Instead of getting them getting zapped all the time. I'm just saying.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but I think that's one of the, we talked about Deadpool Wolverine a few weeks ago, and we probably will until it comes out because I believe it'll be the biggest movie of the year for a comic book standpoint.
Okay.
I don't think anything else is going to top that. But I think what I'm most excited about is after this movie, seeing him show up in the MCU in different, because like you said, he's like that Spider-Man character that could just pop up anywhere.
Right.
We talk a lot about Daredevil on this show lately with the whole Born Again series coming out soon. You like the Jessica Jones show, right?
Yes.
I've only seen the first season. How do you feel about Killgrave? And did you know about Killgrave from the comics prior to this show?
I did not know who Killgrave was. It took me a minute to wrap around, even in the Jessica Jones movie show. I think it turned the Jessica Jones show into like a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
Which was interesting on a superhero movie. So I liked the character.
Yeah.
After the fact, but I did not know about him prior to.
I didn't know either. Now I've seen him in some comics since then. Like I read Devil's Reign, which is a great. And actually, someone had emailed me asking, what if we have a lot of fans that watch us that are purely fans of the movies and haven't really read comics.
Sure.
And they had, asked, hey, if for someone like myself, what would be a good starting point? And there's so many, but Devil's Reign's a great story that, but the reason I bring that up is Killgrave's featured in there. And in the comics, Killgrave is purple. He's a purple creature, has same powers, and he also has kids in the comics that also have the same powers of mind control.
Okay.
But, dude, I thought that Killgrave, because I was like you, I didn't know who he was prior to this show, but watching that first season, I thought he was one of the best Marvel villains we've seen ever.
All right.
Like, dude, dude was sick.
And it didn't require CGI.
Nope.
Didn't require, no flaming suits and all this other kind of stuff, So just good writing.
Yes, exactly. Because 100% good writing. Because him, dude, I remember him, they had that support group of all the people that were affected by Killgrave.
Right.
And the guy, like, crazy shit. Like, I left my kid on the sidewalk because Killgrave told me to. Like, or when he had the chick who actually is from The Boys, Erin Moriarty, however you say her name, when he makes her kill her parents in the elevator.
Right.
Like, dude, sick and twisted shit. So they interviewed him recently. It seems like, now every interview they're going back to these old, MCU stars. Are you coming back? You coming back? Which probably gets tiring from them,
Right.
But they brought up Killgrave, and he said, "Oh, I'd love to do Killgrave. Killgrave would be great. That'd be good, wouldn't it?" And he said also, of course, it would be tricky because he got his neck broken. He was very dead, but we never say never in the Marvel universe. So now the fact that it looks like they're going to do the Devil's Reign story where Kingpin's the mayor. So in that, you've not read that run yet. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Basically, in that story, Kingpin is the mayor. He wants to run for president, and he knows who Daredevil is, his secret identity, and then somehow something's done to him where he forgets it. But it's weird. He kind of remembers that he knew. Right. So it pisses him off and leads to a few other events where he, as a mayor, makes using superpowers or being superpowered illegal. And then he hires, like every other comic story, they hire the villains to police the actual superheroes so they can use their powers if they're arresting superheroes. So that's where it all starts.
Wow.
But it's a great story, and Daredevil plays a big part of it. Elektra does, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones. Killgrave plays a big part of this. He actually uses Killgrave's mind control to try to help people help get in office or whatnot. So at the end of Echo, we see Kingpin get the idea to be a mayor. So it seems like they're going this route. I would love to see this dude's Killgrave show back up. What's his name? David Tennant. I think that'd be great.
Huh. Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you mentioned all these other people, the Hell's Kitchen superheroes, Iron Fist, possibly.
So, dude, I saw a rumor about that, but I guess there's going to be a new Iron Fist movie or show, but it's not the same character. It's a female. I guess there's another Iron Fist in the comics, maybe.
I'm cool with that because that dude, I mean, he just kind of it didn't work for me.
Right.
That actor playing Iron Fist. He was kind of softish, which is nothing I've ever seen about, Iron Fist. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah. I thought of you because I know you're not a big fan of it. And I've not seen Iron Fist yet, and a lot of people have recommended that I don't watch it. So
wow.
I'm probably going to just go with that,
Wow.
But yeah, dude, I anything they're doing with Daredevil, I'm excited for. Sure. They're bringing Punisher back, Kingpin. I love, my boy Vinny D as Kingpin. So I'd be all about David Tennant coming back up. And I hope we see Jessica Jones again.
Yeah. Are they going to bring the same actor back in Punisher?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's badass.
Yeah.
Yep. And I even seen there's been a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And there was a scene with him killing someone. It was just, it looks like it's gonna be right in the same vein as the Netflix Marvel shows.
Cool. All 10 years of killing zombies. got to have some experience some kind of way, right?
Absolutely. Well, Adrian, so I did a little watch of some X-Men animated series this past week. I'm getting ready for X-Men 97.
Okay.
So I wanted to just throw out a couple episodes that I recommend the viewers. We get a lot of questions, and I've been getting some emails lately, and people asking for recommendations. So
Okay.
I'm going to pick 3 episodes, and these are at the end of the first season of the X-Men. And the first 2 episodes are Days of Future Past 1 and 2. So what I love about this show is they adapt a lot of comic book stories into the animated series, and they change small pieces to make it fit, their 20-minute episode or whatnot. But I've seen better portrayals of comic stories in this show than I have in X-Men movies, to be honest.
Wow.
Days of Future Past. Now, that was a great X-Men movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was really good here. But the big one that sticks out, which I'm not going to get into today, is the Phoenix saga and the Dark Phoenix saga. And it goes across, I think the Phoenix saga goes across 5 episodes. And then later in that season, there's another 5 episodes of the Dark Phoenix. And, dude, we've seen Phoenix on screen twice, and I think they got worse each time, right? Like,
Right.
X3 was horrible. I mean, at least Famke Jensen was a better Jean Grey than your girl Sophie Turner.
Right.
But Dark Phoenix, that movie was one of the worst comic book movies I've seen of all time. I wonder where that fell on the IMDb list.
Probably, number 1.
Yeah, it was like an alternate number 1.
But so what seasons were?
Oh, these are season 1. So end
Oh,
of
both season 1?
Yep, and it's a 3. It's actually episode 11, 12, and 13. 13 being the season finale. Okay, so and the reason I bring these up is it ties into a lot of stuff we've talked about here lately. You had Bishop as a hidden gem recently, right? A few weeks back, and in Days of Future Past, the first episode starts in the future. The future is controlled by Sentinels, very similar to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Wolverine, we see Bishop, and we see Forge. Was Forge a hidden gem, or
Yes,
Forge was, right? Yep. So Forge, Bishop, and Wolverine are in the future, and it's this like dystopian, apocalyptic, like humans are most humans are killed, most mutants are killed, and the Sentinels are basically running the future, right? Which happens in the comics, right?
Yep.
So they send Bishop back. Forge has his time travel machine. They send him back to prevent an assassination.
Mm-hmm.
And
so Terminator-esque.
Exactly. Terminator, which we said, Bishop reminds us of the Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
So they send him back to prevent it, and the assassination is done by an X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Through time travel, Bishop forgets, because, you're going back, 60 years or so. He forgets exactly what he's doing. He shows up. He knows that he's got to prevent the assassination. Like, it starts coming back to him, but he doesn't remember who does the assassination. Okay, he shows up at the X Mansion. They're getting into a little scuffle or whatnot. Long story short, I won't spoil the whole thing, but he basically he sees Gambit and realizes that, oh shit, Gambit's the one who's going to assassinate somebody in Washington. They don't know who it is. So this whole fight kind of breaks out. Long story short, Gambit was not the one who assassinated. It was Senator Kelly. It actually was Mystique who disguised herself as Gambit, right? And then it kind of triggers this whole storyline between her and Rogue, where she says she's Rogue's mom or adopted mom. So we also don't know if this is true or not at the time, because she's a shapeshifter, right? And this leads to Senator Kelly being kidnapped by Magneto. It's a really cool scene. Professor Xavier, they get into this area. They're trying to save Senator Kelly, and he's gone. And they're like, what the hell happened? And his Xavier picks up on it. He goes, oh, I know who it was. He's like, there's a magnetic field. My watch is magnetized. He throws the watch, and it like sticks to his wheelchair. He's like, it's Magneto. It's a pretty cool ending. And then this leads to Master Mold. I don't know if you've ever seen him in the comics, the giant sentinel that creates other sentinels. It's like, dude, he's like a Galactus-sized sentinel.
Gotcha.
And he literally like creates sentinels and pops them out of his chest.
Cool.
And they make plastic sentinels so Magneto can't destroy them.
I remember that comic where the government spent all this money on plastic, like helicopters.
Yes.
And Magneto just picks up a light pole out the street.
Yep.
and slams it into the side of
So
the
you're
helicopter.
gonna love this part then. So he's in an abandoned ship, right? and the Sentinel, and he tries to, grab the Sentinel like we've seen him do in earlier episodes, and that's when we're now made out of plastic, and he's like, you fools, my ship is my weapon. So he starts literally pulling parts of the metal ship and destroying the Sentinels.
Right.
But he gets pretty banged up in the process because it's not like, being able to crush Sentinels. But all in all, dude, I mean, it's these three. It's the Days of Future Past 1 and 2, and then the 13th episode is the Final Decision, which is the season finale for season 1. So, I mean, I recommend the first season of this. Like, I love this show, but I think the first season's probably my favorite season.
Okay.
For 1 and 2 are great, but it starts with Night of the Sentinels, and I love how it progresses. And while point out these three episodes now, because you talked about Bishop a few weeks ago, we also had the X-Men 97 trailer released, and if you remember at the end, Magneto is pretty much now leading the X-Men.
Right.
So in this first season, Magneto's a villain at the beginning, and then towards the end, he's working with the X-Men. To prevent this death and to fight the Sentinels and defeat Master Mold. So you see a little bit of the arc. And throughout this show, Magneto kind of moves in and out as like an anti-hero, villain, and then he helps the X-Men. So it's really cool dynamic. But I highly recommend these 3 episodes.
Cool. Do you like the animated versions because they're able to properly portray scenes and powers?
Yes.
More so than in the movies? Is that what it is?
I love that.
I agree.
And the writing, because yes, I agree. The art style, I mean, it's 1993.
Right.
It's what you're going to get for 1993. But they're treated with there's a score to this. Like, they're treated like an actual movie.
Right.
And the thought that went into the it's just good writing too. So I like these two because they take stories from the comics, they tweak them enough to fit, the animated platform or whatnot, but they don't go changing shit just to change it like they've done in a lot of these movies.
Right.
And to your point, the power you can portray a lot more in, animated series versus live action.
Right.
So I highly recommend those. And also, Adrian, so you can get a glimpse of how Wolverine's voice used to sound 30 years ago. So, all right. Well, we got a segment here, Adrian, that this is also becoming somewhat of a fan favorite. Okay. It's We Respond.
Okay.
So I got some comments, and someone, one of the comments this past week, they proposed the idea. I like this too. Them are fans propose ideas. Hey, you guys should try this. They let us know what they want, right?
Okay.
And they say you should do a fan question segment. They give us some questions, we answer them. So I have a handful here. We'll do some of this with We Respond, okay? So I got my man here, Samuel DN7QU. Now he's got a handful of questions. I'm gonna pick a few. He says, I like hearing your opinions. We do too. We like hearing our opinions. But thank you. Do you think Armor Wars will be any good? So remember Armor Wars? This was originally supposed to be a show with Rhodey. Now in the comics, Armor Wars story is Tony Stark. I think I don't know if it's a government steals his Iron Man suits. Basically, someone has his tech and they have to fight to get it back or some shit. Have you ever read Armor Wars?
I think the premise is that because Tony Stark was so secretive, and he didn't want his tech to get in other people's hands. I mean, it was kind of like in Iron Man 2 when Justin Hammer.
Yep.
So what basically happened was they broke into his servers and stole the plans for it and he never patented any of it because he didn't want it to be out there.
Got it.
So if you patent it, all the designs are in the government's thing, and then the government would have it, and then after whatever the time limit is for patents, then everybody else would have it.
Yeah.
So he kept it to himself, which is how Justin Hammer got a hold to it and started making all these, War Machine type suits.
Got it.
So outside of that, all the other armor and mech suits that everybody else was creating would have been just like he was portraying in the court. You know, 15 years behind at best.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So the issue, and actually Samuel's question here, he goes, I love the comics, but if Tony Stark isn't in it, what's the point? How do you do Armor Wars without Tony Stark? Now, they're going to base it around Rhodey, right? War Machine, which we saw him was in Secret. He probably one of the halfway decent aspects of Secret Invasion was the Rhodey story, right? Seeing him kind of out of, he was a Skrull, was, replaced him for years. We still don't know how long. But
it doesn't matter if he was a Skrull or not. The point is that he shined best because he wasn't in the armor.
Yes,
I didn't like Don Cheadle as Rhodey. He doesn't fit that that Rhodey character.
Got it.
I also think it's a mistake to have the Armor Wars around Rhodey. But, I mean, that's just,
And this Armor Wars was originally supposed to be a show. They started working on it and decided to turn it into a movie. So do I think it will be any good? Based off of what they did with Secret Invasion, I'm going to go no. And based off the fact that we're doing an Iron Man story without Iron Man, I say no, dude. Do you think this is going to be any good?
I think, so first of all, I mean, Iron Man has been in so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Stark, has been in so much stuff. And Rhodey has taken on the, been Iron Man at points to replace Tony when Tony couldn't be there. So nobody really knew, right? Besides the fact that, some of Iron Man's suits are autonomous, so they can go and he can just send them out and do stuff without him. I don't think that it would be good because Tony Stark is not in it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would be good from a public perspective because what's his face is not the actor.
Yeah.
So for those two reasons, it's okay if you just scratch the whole movie.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just dump it and move and
Yes.
put your energy into something else.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that it'll end up being like, Iron Man 3 with all the suits flying around.
Yeah.
It was a complete CF and you got all these blinking lights and squirrels running around the screen. So, no.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm with you. And to your point, we saw Armor Wars, at least aspects of that, in Iron Man 2 already.
Right.
So just leave
2,
it alone.
3, whatever it was.
Yeah, no, it was 2. Yeah, with
was
Justin
2.
Hammer, which I don't dislike 2 as much as a lot of people.
No.
I mean, I like all the Iron Man movies. Now, I would, obviously they're not better than, well, they are better than the Zack Snyder Justice League.
Yeah, but they're not better than the Batman.
Of course not, Adrian. Maybe the first one.
Edward.
Edward. And Samuel also goes on. He's got a few other here. He says, could they do a true mutant massacre in the X-Men? I don't think the MCU will do that.
They could, but it'd be like Star Trek, Kirk beams down. When you see a character, a lieutenant or whatever that you've never seen before, he's dead.
Yeah,
he's dead.
Exactly.
So they'll probably get some unknown,
Right.
less popular mutants and, go through that process, so on and so forth.
And then this last one, he said, well, he has a few other, but I'll pick out here. Why hasn't Mr. Sinister shown up? Dude, I've been
good question.
Yeah, I agree. Why hasn't he?
Good question.
Now, actually, it's probably a good thing because they would have probably fucked him up. So hopefully they wait till they start portraying the X-Men properly on screen.
Right.
But Mr. Sinister, and that's another one in the second season of the animated series. Sinister plays he's the big villain. They actually tease him at the end of the first season. But dude, Sinister's badass.
Yeah.
I would love to see him done properly on screen.
There's no good answer as to why he hasn't shown up, but he needs to show up soon.
He definitely does. Next up, Zay Wicked 007 says, does Hugh really need to be recast, though? I feel like he should play the vet role like Toby, Cap, until Secret Wars. He goes on to say, basically, because what would be the point of Wolverine finally joining? He's to go. Basically what he's saying is let Hugh play Wolverine until Secret Wars and then recast him. I'm cool with that.
I'm cool with that, too, because in the in that series about the future, about the Sentinels, Logan was there. He was older with the gray stripes and stuff like that. Yep. So there is in Logan, the movie itself was a older version of Wolverine.
Correct.
So they could do that, and I'm down for that.
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
No doubt. Now with this one, BGJ197502 says one of the best comic book based podcasts around. Yes, I agree.
Cool.
Question. Cool. Henry Cavill as Captain Britain thoughts. So we talked about this earlier, and my final thought is I give that a thumbs up. Let's do it.
I agree.
Let's see. Derek on TikTok says, up to the point of Endgame, do you agree or disagree? Always using our nomenclature on us here.
Right.
Do you agree or disagree that DC had better TV shows, i.e. Arrow, Flash, etc., and Marvel had better movies? I say no because Marvel had the Netflix shows that I think are better than the DC shows. What do you say? You think the Arrow shows, they up until Endgame, he's saying that DC had better shows?
I will say I disagree with the exact question.
Yeah.
However, I do agree that DC had better shows than they do movies.
Yes.
And Marvel has very good shows, the Netflix shows.
Yep.
And very good movies.
Right.
DC has, now when you want to cross-pollinate, DC has better animation
Yes.
than Marvel does.
Up until the Spider-Verse movies.
Up until the Spider-Verse. And Marvel has better movies than they do animations.
Yes. Yep. So I guess
So that's a long, complex answer.
Yep.
But I don't agree with his specific outlook. But I do agree that they have better TV shows than they do movie. DC.
Right. You'll probably agree with this one. Matthew Ricotta says, is that Ricotta like Ricotta? That's a cool last name. Or I don't know if it's a fake name for TikTok. But anyways, it has nothing to do with this.
Ricotta like the cheese?
Yeah. Ricotta.
Okay.
That's
cool.
a cool last name.
Cool.
So he says, you guys are great. Thanks for the nerd content.
Cool.
I agree. Do you agree with this?
I feel as I'm getting away about the nerd thing, but that's okay. It's all good. It's all good.
So that Super Samoan, he's a fan of the show. I've seen him comment a bunch. That Super Samoan, he says, my wife is a huge Gambit fan, and even she tells me she's against Channing Tatum as Gambit. How do you feel about this? There's been a rumor for years that Channing Tatum is going to play Gambit.
I feel about that like I do Nicolas Cage about being Superman.
Oh, damn. See, now, do you at least think he looks the part?
No,
you
not
don't,
at all.
really?
Not at all. Channing, the best movie I saw him in was when he played that wolf space dude with that other chick. About human harvesting or whatever.
Okay, I've never seen that.
That's about it. I mean, that's as close to superhero as I want to see him.
Got it.
I mean, I could be wrong. He can find his character.
Yeah.
Gambit is not it.
Yeah, so for him, I think he could have the look down. I've seen a lot of like fan art where they kind of put his face in there.
Nope.
But I don't think he is a good enough actor. Cuz I love Gambit. And I'm going to like the animated series Gambit. This one, dude, the voice actor, and I hope he doesn't I hope his voice doesn't sound really fucked up after 30 years too. But I guess we'll find out.
Right.
But his portrayal in that show was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have high hopes for Gambit, and I don't think Channing Tatum can deliver to those.
Nope.
Jersey, not Jersey, Jersey, Jershi or Jersey. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. It says, I got to say, I love this damn account. Honest reviews and great takes. Me too.
Enough said.
So we were talking about Reed Richards. We were talking about Pedro Pascal. We gave our thoughts on that last week. We were kind of 50-50. Jim Otzi on TikTok says, argument, nobody saw Heath Ledger as Joker, and yet, so I guess he's saying, a lot of people felt some type of way when Heath Ledger was casted as Joker, and he knocked it out of the park. Now, I would say this, 50-50 here. So I guess you're kind of proving our point. Heath Ledger, he didn't need to look the part because he wore makeup.
Right.
So that didn't matter that he didn't look like Joker, but he was a great actor, and he had a great portrayal of Joker. So it's kind of like Pedro Pascal. He doesn't look the part, but he's a great actor. I do think he can knock it out of the park.
I will wait and see. I just don't go by. I mean, he just doesn't look the part to me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to let that be a bias as far as his acting is concerned. I didn't think Chadwick Boseman was Black Panther-ish.
Really? You didn't when he was casted?
No, I was like, who is this clown?
Yeah.
Right? So, but he knocked it out the park. So I agree with what he's saying.
Yep. The
concept of what he's saying, but I'll reserve that I don't think that Pascal is going to be the Reed Richards. I would love to be wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong.
Right.
But I'm just not feeling it initially. I'm not feeling it like what's his face being Captain Britain, or I'm forgetting everybody's name today. Anyway, Black Panther, actor,
Chadwick
perfect.
Boseman,
Captain America, actor, perfect.
Yes.
Wanda Maximoff,
perfect.
actor, perfect. Tony Stark, actor, perfect. I mean, there are just some. Henry Cavill as the Superman, perfect.
Robert Pattinson as the Batman,
not at all. I mean, it just. But then you get like the weird ones where the kid that played the last Flash. I mean, just a perfect example of what not to do.
Right.
So I'm just not seeing Pascal at this point. Please change my mind. I'm cool with it.
And then we got, I think the universe out there is 50-50. So most of these comments are on this same video. So we got Frank Monkey 79. He doesn't fit. I don't know. Tommy Ryu says, I don't see it either. User 687, like, dude, can you just get a name instead of being user 687? Like, how, and you have a profile photo. Why don't you have a TikTok name? He says he's going to kill it. Now, the Battle Hammer says, will you also think the 7 can beat the Justice League? LOL. We don't think we know. What else we got this week? We have on YouTube, my man Roby1, I believe that says, Taylor Swift as Dazzler works. I agree. And then what else we got? So, it's my man Andrew Duncan is the one that said, great episode. You guys should think about doing fan-submitted questions segment. I agree. Submit your questions.
Sure.
We'll hit them up each week. Let's do it. In Orbit says, I was sad Black Adam wasn't a villain. Imagine him and Superman fighting. I know, right?
That's Black Adam's entire existence.
Right.
I mean, in the comics. I mean, he's one of those King, the high evolutionary, I want to take over everything and kill whoever's in my way kind of thing. But he is a villain.
Right.
And he should be portrayed as one.
Yep. S1RK says, people saying it might be Daniel Radcliffe. I'm so excited about Patch. So we mentioned Patch, the Wolverine variant in the Deadpool trailer, remember? Yeah. So there's a rumor that Harry Potter is going to play Patch. How do you feel about that?
Daniel Radcliffe has struggled since Harry Potter. Yeah. I hope that he can do something movie worthy.
He's bulked up though lately.
So I did see one movie where he played some kind of villain.
Yeah.
He did a decent job of that. So I mean, if he can pull it off, I applaud him. I'd like to see him in something adult, but I've seen typically kids that have these real popular kid-centric movies, they don't transition well into adult stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah. I saw some pictures of him recently, and he was jacked.
Oh,
so
yeah?
that's also where the rumors kind of like, I don't think it started there, but it added to the rumor, like, why is Harry Potter getting jacked right now? Like maybe to play a Wolverine variant. I think from a look perspective, I think he could pull it off.
I could see it. I could see it. I mean, we probably should, stop shitting on these people, about their past lives. Except for Edward.
Except for Edward, yeah, for you.
Except for Edward. We should give him a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time.
Right.
So, I mean, if that's what he's trying to do, I applaud him.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see.
Yeah, I would be cool with it, dude. So yeah, I'm not mad at that. We got a couple more here. We had 2 more, Adrian. Angelo Cano says, Duncan over Starbucks, yes. See, he gets it.
Right.
We've been trying to tell him this for weeks.
Right. I mean, get with it, Duncan.
Yeah, seriously.
We were run on Duncan, too, if you submit it.
Dude, you know what's funny? We showed up here this morning. I didn't see a box of Joe anywhere, did you?
I definitely not a box of Joe.
Nope.
I mean, I had my cup of Joe.
Yeah, that you had to buy.
That I had to buy.
Did they give you any free donuts?
Not even Wednesday. No. No senior discount or nothing, man. You can pull off at least a senior, discount, but
you're not old enough for a senior discount, dude. Someone asked a few weeks ago again if your beard was dyed. I'm tired of trying to explain this to people.
No. This is naturally grown, naturally aged, stress, just like everything else.
There you go. And then the last one. Media giant, he says. I wonder, is he really a media giant? If you're a media giant, dude, help us out.
Dude, that's Tom Cruise. That's Tom Cruise.
I don't think there's anything giant about Tom Cruise. He's at the perfect height to play Patch, by the way.
Or Puck from the Alpha Flight.
Hey, we did suggest an Alpha Flight movie, dude. If I see that rumor next week, I'm done. We're just gonna do a prediction show for now on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're gonna be like that lady with the
Cleo.
Yeah. Cleo.
Call me now. Yeah.
yeah. Start a psychic hotline or something.
Oh, we're aging. I wonder how many of our viewers are about our age. This question has nothing to do with the comics, but do you remember Miss Cleo? And if you ever called them, let us know.
Well, there is like a 15, 20-year difference between us, though.
True.
So if they remember it, that's a nice place to be. But
yeah,
that's a wide age range.
But I've always wondered though, like people obviously called her. It's why they ran the commercials for so long, right? So if you did call Miss Cleo, let us know. Matter of fact, we'll start a Miss Cleo support group. We'll do a small segment each week. But anyways, my man Media Giant here. I want to know who you guys feel is the best cinematic character version of Batman. This is where we don't agree. I'll start. I will say, and you're gonna fall out of your chair, Adrian, but I think you know where I'm going.
Right.
As of today, now, cinematic version of Batman is Robert Pattinson. I thought he was the best Batman portrayal. I thought that he was in the suit more than any other Batman. He didn't just show up for the action scenes. He didn't have that stupid voice that Christian Bale had, which I probably know that's where you're going, so I'm going to throw out there first. But I'm going Robert Pattinson. What about you?
All right.
Don't even say George Clooney.
Oh, please. Nipple boy? No, not at all. Christian Bale, to me, was the embodiment of Bruce Wayne / Batman overall. Now, I will concede and agree that Pattinson, for year 2, the young Batman was the best portrayal of a young Batman that's ever been on the screen. Okay. I will say that.
All right. I'll take that. It's like a half agree, but not really.
Right.
Well, there you have it. We respond. That segment's becoming a fan. That actually legit's coming a fan favorite. Last week I had people like, we need more of these. So
it's fun though. It's fun. We engage.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm doing. Listen, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the support. Like we started this for us, honestly. People. I got an email from a guy who he's a middle school teacher.
Okay.
And he runs like a superhero extracurricular club, like where they get into debates and all this stuff. He's a 5th grade teacher. He said when his kids get older, he'll introduce them to the podcast.
Okay.
But he gave some feedback he gave me about the podcast. He said that he likes the fact that, well, basically in a nutshell, says likes the fact that we're not experts and we don't make the viewer feel stupid for not knowing something or or liking something that doesn't follow the comic, storyline. Because there's a lot of other podcasts out there that do that.
Right.
And I kind of joke about the beginning of this podcast, but one of the reasons why I started this, Adrian, was I was looking for a comic book podcast. And when I saw what was out there, I was like, this sucks. And I'm trying to be an ass, but there were a lot of experts that come across as very condescending and very like, we know it all and y'all suck.
Well, I'm in a couple other, like Facebook groups and stuff oh my God, Facebook, right?
What's that?
But I'm in that age bracket that, I still browse Facebook every once in a while. But there's a lot of people that call themselves experts. And they just, if you ask a simple question and it's like, oh my God, why are you asking that question? Don't you know? It's like, come on, dude. I mean, that's what we're here for, to learn and to share.
Absolutely.
And, that's my involvement in this podcast. I'm learning as I go along too, with, especially with the hidden gems, because there's a lot of stuff that I was introduced to when I was 16 years old. And a lot of characters I never even knew. Right. So when I do some of this research, I'm blown away by, like Nova or Corsair or Bishop, or, any of the number of the hidden gems that we discuss, or even in casually talking about regular characters. Yep. So there's a lot of information to share. And I like the fact that, we don't claim that. We tell you that every time. And it's good that other people recognize and like us for not being those experts. So that's cool.
Absolutely. So that was my boy Nick. And Nick also asked about merch. So, we got some merch on this week. We've seen a bunch of merch recently, Adrian. I just put another order, and I'll tell you this. Next week, the merch site will be live.
Okay.
Next week, y'all can order some merch. And going back to comments about the podcast, so one of the things that Nick said was it allows fans like him to partake in the discussion, enjoy the movies without being ostracized. And that's really what it's like. We have fun. We'll listen. But if you're gonna troll, we will let you have it. I don't mess around with troll. Like the guy who tried to race bait us. Like, is it because he's not? No, it's because you're a fucking dumbass. That's why. Hey, go troll somewhere else. And be clear. If you don't like this podcast, you don't like something me and Adrian said, as you put it a few weeks ago, there's other podcasts.
Absolutely. Just leave.
Find another one.
Just swipe left.
We're going to do this
right,
anyways.
Whatever the terminology is.
Yeah, swipe. Yeah, whatever one's the wrong way, But like you said, we were doing this when nobody was watching. Right. So we're going to continue. It's not about, making everybody happy. So he, last thing we'll end with. So Nick had this question. He says that, he's fully bought into Marvel and DC, and he wanted to know, as someone who's only seen movies, what would be a good comic series that would be a good introduction for someone who loves the movies but has never read a comic. So I'm going to throw out a few of my favorites.
Okay.
Right? So I'll start with some DC stuff, and the only thing at DC that actually matters is Batman. So I would say that, now there's a ton of Batman ones, but The Long Halloween is a great one to start with. It's a very, like you mentioned, Robert Pattinson being year 2. This is like a year 2, year 3 Batman. It's a 12 or 13 issue series. It's a graphic. I would start with some graphic novels, you know. So Long Halloween's a great one. You also have Death in the Family. We actually reviewed that one here. That's a great one. Hush, another Batman one, great to start with. And then if I was going to Marvel, I would look at some of their events, like Civil War. That's one, especially if you love the movies, because Civil War, we saw the Captain America movie, which is one of my all-time favorites.
Right. And
the Civil War comic is great. It's like that whole, what's better, the book or the movie? As a kid, I'm like, how the hell could a book be better than a movie? But there's a lot more story, right? So the Civil War, with Marvel events, and if you use their app, you can look up the series and it will tell you every comic that ties into it. I think Civil War is maybe a 6 or 7 issue story, but there's over a dozen other comics that tie into it. So that would be one. X-Men versus Avengers is a great one. X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills. I don't know if you ever read this one. It took place in the 80s when Stryker was like the main villain, but he's more of a pastor. He isn't like that militant guy.
Wow. Yeah, I never heard of that one.
And the X-Men 2 storyline with Stryker, his son Jason, when he's got Professor Xavier trapped in their version of Cerebro and he's trying to kill all the mutants, that storyline pulls from this. So and they actually did a great version of that on screen. And the other ones we mentioned, Dark Phoenix,
right,
great saga, Days of Future Past, and then I mentioned Devil's Reign recently. So I'm throwing a bunch of these out here, but really any of those I think is a great starting point. It really, I guess what it comes down to is, are you okay with reading comics from like the 80s where the art style don't look as good as the stuff from now? Because some of that will prevent me. Some of them. You're saying no.
The art style isn't from the 80s, isn't as
some
good.
Of them, like the colors and whatnot.
Wow.
We're gonna age debate here. So those are a handful of mine. What about you, Adrian? If you're talking my man Nick here, who's never read a comic but loves the movies.
I don't have any particular series.
Okay.
I wasn't into the series. I just read the comics month to month back when they actually put them out, month to month, right? It's like all this anticipation. You just couldn't wait until the next thing happened. However, on the DC side, I'm going to go with characters.
Okay.
We all know about Superman, Batman. I would go into Wonder Woman, actually, because Wonder Woman is badass. The whole history of Themyscira, where she comes from and all that stuff. That's it for the DC side. On the Marvel side, I would definitely, besides the regular X-Men, Avengers, I would dive into the early Iron Mans, the late 80s, early 90s for me.
Yeah.
Because from the X-Men, you get into Alpha Flight, which is a whole different group. You get into the Hellfire Club, which is a whole different villainous group. And they just had a bunch of interesting villains. Some super, some not so much. I would get into Black Bolt and his whole family. I would get into who else? We all know about the Spider-Mans and stuff like that, the big names. But there's a lot of the early Fantastic Four, which gets you into all of their villain, Silver Surfer, Galactus. So I'm recommending comics, not necessarily for the comic itself, but because it introduces you into so many other things like the Kangs and the Lokis and all this other kind of stuff. So I heard about Loki before I heard about Thor, really. Really? Even though it's kind of hard to think about that, that kind of thing. Because I was into mythology a lot when I was, a kid. So I was reading about Thor as a Norse god.
Got it.
Not as a comic book character.
Yeah.
So when he came on screen, I was actually pleasantly surprised that they gave him the portrayal that they did, which turns out to be pretty cool. Yeah. So your things are more fine strokes. Mine's more broad strokes.
Got it.
Because, I would say get introduced into other teams, other characters based on the main, because right now they're just pushing a bunch of mainstream characters, but through those characters, through those teams, you'll find other nuggets.
Yeah. Another DC story that I didn't mention was Flashpoint. Flashpoint Paradox is a good, great kind of DC event.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not like, it's just so hard to pull stuff out of DC. And even though I didn't like the Ezra Miller version of the Flash is badass.
Yes.
I mean, I love the CDW version, both of them. The old one, I don't know if it was CDW, the Garrett Flash. Okay. I don't know if it was CDW back then, but the
Wasn't
CDW
there
from
one
like
that
the
was
90s
CW
or
and
something?
one that was Netflix, maybe?
I'm not sure, but but there was a TV series where, like in the 90s, they had a Flash.
Okay.
But now he shows up in the CDW version as a alternate Flash with the wings.
Yeah.
Right. So I like both of those.
Okay.
And definitely, the Paradox. Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Thing. But this Ezra Miller,
not
at all. Not at all.
That. You mentioned, Iron Man early stuff. Did you read the Demon in the Bottle storyline?
Yeah.
It was like late 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you feel about that?
It was impactful.
Yeah.
It was you get to see, and again, you get to attach to the man, Tony Stark, not just the millionaire superhero.
Right.
Because at one point, I don't know if it was during that, where he actually became like an employee in a company, but he was still Tony Stark mentally, so he would go and like make computers, like supercomputers for people, stuff like that. But he was like just really low key. But he went through some stuff.
Yeah.
He really went through. So that's why Robert Downey Jr., I think, was a great fit, because Robert Downey Jr. in his personal life went through the whole drug thing, like Tony Stark went through the whole alcohol thing.
Right. Yeah, and we see this was the first comic I read where Namor was featured. I wasn't a big Namor guy, but I saw him featured in this, and I thought that was really cool. But yeah, this was and this is another one where they adapted some of this into the Iron Man movies when he had the drinking problem in Iron Man 2. So this is another one. I think this would also be a great series, and I think it's a few issues, 9-issue story arc from. Ran issues 120 through 128 in 1979.
Okay.
So I thought that was but you're right. You do get to see the Tony Stark, character and his struggles, because a lot of times, especially in early comics, there's a lot of it's just like you get to see the superhero so much and how great that person is. They're always saving the day, right?
Right.
And I think some of the best comics for me is where you also get to see their flaws, and a character like Iron Man who's no superpowers. He's just a genius with a badass suit, right?
Right.
So you get to see the personal struggles. So I always love that.
Right. I think thinking back, like Peter Parker, the most beloved characters had flaws that people could identify with.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really identify with Superman, Wonder Woman, because they're like aliens and all these. They have problems, Martha and kryptonite and stuff like that.
You said Martha.
but I mean, Peter Parker, his uncle got killed. His mother, his aunt is struggling. He's a kid. going through kid stuff in high school.
Yep.
Tony Stark, with the alcohol thing. So it just seems like the people with the problems that people can identify with became the bigger names. Even Bruce Wayne. Right. I mean, he's just a regular dude with money. I mean, he has problems. Right. I don't know what kind of problems he's having. Yeah. But I'm sure he had some.
Absolutely.
But he was just badass, though.
He was.
He was like everything that every dude want to be.
Yes.
Like just crawl. Creeping around town, just beating people's ass.
I know. Dude, that's why, when I initially saw my man's question, I wanted to just list, 10 Batman stories. Because there's so many good ones, though. You could go Year One. You got Dark Knight Returns. Like I said, Hush. There's just so many. Under the Red Hood. That's I would recommend reading Death in the Family first, and then read Under the Red Hood. But there's so many stories. Spider-Man, you mentioned Spider-Man. The night Gwen Stacy died is a really good comic arc. Which we saw a little bit of that in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Right. And we get a lot of, offset characters from them. The Hobgoblin, the Green Goblin. Not the Hobgoblin, but Green Goblin. shittily portrayed in the movies. Rhino. There's just a lot. So your thing is about specific series. My thing is about, don't focus so much on the characters that we know, but the attachments to them. I think you'll find a lot of gems in that.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So, well, there you have it. I don't know if that helps you, Nick, or confuses you more, but honestly, though, take any one of those would be a great starting point. And, dude, just try one of them. Just jump in, dude.
Yep, just pick up a book and move on.
Yep. So I mean, one of the first stories I read from Marvel when I kind of got back into comics was Civil War.
Okay.
And then prior to that, I was heavy on the DC side, and I went through like every Batman graphic novel I could find. Because I read a bunch of comics as a kid, and then kind of stopped for a little bit, got into all the movies, and over the past like 10 years, jumped back in. So there's the good thing about it. There's so much content out there.
Yeah.
Like you literally. We've been doing this is our 45th episode, and we're just scratching the surface.
Oh, absolutely.
We've talked about a handful of movies, a few comics, and a bunch of news. Like, there's just so much content, which is cool. Well, there you have it, Adrian. I think that's it for this week. We had another great hidden gem. If you like this episode, hit the subscribe button so you can find out when we're dropping new content. Another fun agree to disagree as always. We respond, and we're going to do this every other week. And then, we got – it's cool about – like last year there was a decent amount of comic movies that came out. There's not that many this year, which is cool, but there's a lot of shows, so we'll be able to focus on some of those. So X-Men 97 dropping in a few weeks. We'll do some reviews on that. And, hey, please check out those 3 episodes. Let us know how you feel about those. See Adrian's boy Bishop in there from the Hidden Gem, and we will be back here next week. Adrian, thanks for coming in.
As always.
And we'll see you next week right here on Only Comics.